feel it now. It's all around me. A silent voice I can't deny. A mother's arms, how they surround me. They sing the beauty of my life.
It will last forever. It will never fade away. Never cause me pain. This love, this love.
I close my eyes. It takes me over. A memory deep down in my soul. And safe from harm to be beside you. A light will shine upon the world.
It will last forever. It will never fade away. Never cause me pain. This love, this love.
It will last forever. It will never fade away. Never cause me pain.
It will last forever. It will never fade away. Never cause me pain. This love, this love.
This love, this love.
Om Shanti, golden morning. So we'll have some spiritual sharing right now on the topic spiritual dharna for remaining loving and detached. And for this topic, we have none other than Sister Gopi. And in a few words, Sister Gopi has been in Gyan. You will never know for how many years she has been in Gyan. She has been with Baba for 44 years. And for all this time, she has devoted her life to Baba's task. And she was amongst the pioneers at the GRC Global Retreat Center that started in '93. She has also helped since then in the training of the NC and the CC National Coordinators Center in charge She has overseen also since the beginning, since its inception, the youth movement. And also recently, although she has been traveling extensively for Baba Seva, she has been positioned a little bit more in Bharat itself, and especially in Mount Abu, where she oversees the environmental and safety program for the 3 campuses. And just if you allow me, Gopi Ben, on a personal note, what I would like to say, because I've been observing you for many years, being based in Europe, that you are Baba's kind of Swiss knife or jack of all trades. And you can do whatever Baba assigns you to do. And also, we are all Brahma Baba's Mukvan Chevalier, Brahma Baba's mouth-born progeny, but certainly you are also Daddy Janki's mouth-born progeny. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Would sisters like to come and take the front seats? Come. Fill up the seats in the front. In this Avyakt month of January, remembering Brahma Baba's footsteps and Brahma Baba's example is a source of inspiration and a source of energy for us. And I know for me, I didn't have the fortune of meeting Sakar Baba in this birth, but I did have the fortune of spending a lot of time with one of his closest companions, many of his closest companions, the daddies, and in particular, a close working relationship with Daddy Janki. And Daddy always used to say that she wanted to give sustenance the way that Sakar Baba gave her sustenance. And she wanted us to experience everything she experienced from Sakar Baba. And when I was asked about the topic today, this topic just came to my mind without thinking. The spiritual dharnas for remaining loving and detached. And you know, the stage of being loving and detached, you know the symbol for it, right? What's the symbol? The lotus. The lotus seat is the symbol of being, in Hindi it's Nyara Pyara. Tamil translation is not available. Somebody's going for translation? It's okay? Can you hear Tamil? Can you hear? Can you speak from the translation booth? Okay? Okay. Okay, good. So what was the last thing I was saying? Right. The word in Hindi, we say Nyara Pyara, which puts detached first and then loving. Whereas in English, when we translate it, we say loving and detached. But it's always the other way around. And I think this topic is especially valuable for me because this is what, for me, symbolizes the Karmatit stage. The stage of being Bab Saman. And this was Brahma Baba's firm example. And over the years, as I've watched our daddies, the seniors, been in interactions in the Brahmin family, you catch dharnas. Dharnas are not something that you're taught in a classroom. It is a spiritual energy that is transmitted through your attitude, through your drishti, through your activity. So you can't teach somebody dharna. You can teach knowledge. And I was having a conversation with Bridgemore Bai yesterday, and we were exploring the translations for the word dharna. And yes, on the one side, you can say inculcate. You can say become an embodiment. And yet on the other side, so both of these words symbolize absorbing something and integrating something inside me. So the foundation of dharna, absorption and integration. But then he went on to share that it is living spirituality. And the feeling I had was it's not just absorption, integration, but it's also benevolence. Real divine spiritual dharna is an energy of benevolence. It creates a nature, a character that is deeply benevolent. Now later on, we'll explore the subject of the difference between being helpful, and being benevolent, because there is a big difference. You can help, but it will be limited to the extent of your nature and sanskars. So I find that this whole idea of spiritual energy, spiritual power in the form of virtues, the energy of our virtues, infusing our being, infusing the way we see each other. It infuses, it penetrates the way we speak with each other. It infuses how we relate to each other. And so, for me, I suppose dharna and its foundation is about absorption, integration, and then allowing that to penetrate, that every act of mine is sharing a spiritual energy. It is empowering another, uplifting another, without any conscious awareness of it. Someone who has a dharna, a life of dharna, has no ego of their dharna. I'm like this, I'm like... Because the moment you put I, it blocks the flow of spiritual power and energy. You're no longer spiritual the moment you've become conscious of, or claimed your speciality. It's really a deep, when you are integrated inside, there's a deep sense of being supported, security, and integrated with the bigger whole. So there's a deep sense of belonging that comes when you have a life that is dharna yukt. And then somebody who has beautiful dharna, always you'll see them graceful, and they always do the work of joining, never separating anything. It is our body conscious sanskars and nature that separate things, create groups, create cliques. But when we're operating from a place of dharna, real spiritual dharna, there is neutrality, there is inclusivity, very naturally, everyone, equality in my relation with everyone. So, understanding that dharna is not just a behavior or an etiquette, but it is my inner support system. And now, if my inner support system is weak, then I will feel insecure. And that's when I will need to rely on my nature and sanskars to get things done. It's the easy way out. But what is in my support system? And I suppose, experimenting as a yogi soul, a huge amount of these spiritual dharnas that Baba teaches us are around the dharnas of remaining detached. This is very, very important. I understand that we all want to be loving. But you cannot sustain being loving consistently and selflessly without detachment. You cannot sustain that dharna without the practice of detachment in some form or another. Because our nature, swabhav, the feelings we have for ourselves when we're in the body, our old sanskars, they're like a rubber band. So when you have some yoga with Baba and some bhavna is activated, you'll act on that bhavna for a short period of time. Then after that, okay, I've shared enough. The rubber band kicks in. You know how you stretch the rubber band and then you let it go and it always comes back? It's exactly what happens. And that's why we enter into a mode of transaction and counting things. Oh, I've done enough now. I've given enough love. How much more can I tolerate? That's enough tolerance. I've done it for 10 years now. You're counting. Everything becomes transactional. And this is a mindset that we are used to. And we think is normal. It's not spiritual. Now, success in the world, whether you like it or not, every human being wants to become successful. It's what moves us, makes us make effort, even as Brahmins. But in the Lokik world, the concept of success is very much linked to profit, reward, gain. And it's polarized. So it is often at the expense of another. And that's why there's always the energy of competition, comparison, that sustains division. If you sustain division, you can sustain a competitive environment that allows success to prevail. That's the Lokik mindset. But in Brahmin life, to be spiritually successful means to be nyara and pyara, which is the stage of being completely neutral in the face of praise, defamation, victory, defeat, insult, more praise. That your stage of being a yogi is completely unaffected by circumstances or even the feelings in your body. And that's the stage of success of a yogi soul. This is the stage that Brahma Baba achieved. Complete neutrality, the karmatit stage, where there was no effect of anything on him. Right now, we're not neutral. We are deeply polarized inside. Because there are experiences or memories we hold on to that keep our mindset rubber banded in a rubber band. And this is why I want to just explore some of these dharnas of detachment, because that's the experiment for a yogi soul. Now, of course, the first and foremost dharna of detachment is the detachment from one's own body. And I will call it the dharna of giving your intellect a rest. You know, whenever the soul has to operate through the body, everything requires the use of your intellect. You have to discern things, think this through. So you're always plugged in. And by being plugged in, the intellect never gets a rest. Because the basis of adopting all dharnas is the quality of your intellect. I know that there are people sometimes that try to copy other people's behavior. You can't copy somebody's behavior in Brahmin life. Because the whole basis of dharna is internal. And your dharna only is revealed to the extent that you remain detached. Then your peace works for you. Then your wisdom works for you. The love works for you. Then Baba's power does its work. And this is a very important focus for us. Otherwise, we start to use silence in the wrong way. Many people say, I just want to be in silence now. Great. But that silence is disassociating me from reality. I'm not detaching in the way Baba wants me to detach as a dharna, but I'm disassociating from all the stuff. And the more I get lost in the world of mysticism and silence, then I don't have to face reality. But detachment as a dharna allows Baba's power, Baba's healing energy, allows love to heal what has gone wrong. Because we, in this last birth, carry scars and wounds and stuff we've done to others, and it's going to come back. Imagine how much love is needed. But in order for that love to do its work and be healed, the dharna of detachment is crucial. Not disassociation, which is a very different practice, which is what we call spiritual escapism. And you'll find that sometimes it becomes a fashion in the Brahmin family. Isolation, silence. But when you delve into the stories of those souls, there's issues with money, issues with relationships, issues with things that are just not being solved. There's no transformation happening. Because too much detachment is disassociation. Too much loving is attachment. So it's detached and loving. It's a balance of both. And if someone is seeing too much of one thing, it means you're out of balance. Now, in the dharna of being detached, this first practice of giving the intellect a rest. Just unplugging from the organs, sense organs of the body for a few moments, and just let your intellect rest. This is what I would call detachment from the body. Where for a few moments you allow the intellect to completely rest and just release the awareness of the physical body in this moment now. And enjoy those few moments as the being, the soul, that is the child of God. And so the more you give yourself in the day rest breaks for your intellect, it's easy to separate from the body. If you don't give your intellect a rest, becoming bodiless is very difficult. Because the whole act of bodiless is the act of the intellect. It's not the body. It's your intellect shedding an awareness. It's just letting go of an awareness of a costume. And so to help you to become bodiless, it's really important to give your intellect rest. Rest breaks in the day. Daddy would do this a lot. In between meeting people, she would, take a orange. Sometimes she'd peel it if we didn't peel it for her. And she'd do it ever so slowly. She was giving us her intellect a rest at that moment. And then as she would feed herself, she would just be in Baba's remembrance. And it would be like Baba feeding her. And just a few minutes, and the intellect is rested and refreshed. And then you can start a new interaction clean. You're not projecting old energy into a new interaction. So that's one of the first dharnas, the detachment from one's own body, giving your intellect those breaks in the day. And then, of course, there's the detachment from relationships, right? And again, this is not about a physical separation. This is about a change of attitude and drishti and the way I relate to you. So many games are played in relationships. And we have signed a contract to be someone's brother, perhaps, to be someone's wife, to be someone's sister-in-law. Even if you may not have those roles at a physical level, those relationship dynamics play themselves out in a karmic account. And I remember many years ago, before moving into Oxford, my relationship with my Lokik sister was never the best. Our communication always did this. And there would be certain triggers in her behavior, that would make me react. And interestingly enough, when I came to live at the retreat center, I was sharing a room with somebody that had very similar scars to my Lokik sister. And it was at that point I realized that actually I'm still being triggered in the same way here. I don't have a karmic account per se with this person, but I realized the depth of the sanskara that was controlling me, because it was being mirrored. So detachment in relationships means I have to bring some transformation in my attitude and my vision first. It's very important. Diwali, when they celebrate Diwali, after Diwali, they celebrate Bhaiya Dooj. This is a memorial of fraternity, brotherly love. And why would I change my attitude in a relationship? Because we belong. Because underneath the fabric, our fabric is brotherly love. And when you come back to that place of an attitude of brotherly love, then you know how to be with everyone. But if you're holding a feeling of being someone's wife, being someone's parent, being someone's teacher, being a center in charge, you can't create a sense of brotherhood. With Daddy came to the West, and Daddy was Daddy. So many years of tapasya in India, so much service growing here in Bharat. And she leaves all of that, and Baba's direction to her is to go abroad and to create a model of Madhuban. And she arrives, and of course, in the West, nobody knows what a daddy is. They don't care if you're a daddy. They want honesty and friendship in their relationships. They don't want to be told what to do. So Daddy very quickly had to find how to relate to souls. She couldn't hold on and say, look, you people don't understand me. I've done so many years of service. I've left India just for you. I'm here, I've renounced everything, and you still don't appreciate me. No. It was like starting again, like a little child. I just want to be your friend. Make me your friend. That's what she would say. And she made it her mission to win people's hearts. And I deeply believe that if you keep that aim, that I really want to win the hearts of the people I'm with, then it comes true. Drama provides those opportunities. Because these are my brothers and sisters. And ultimately, it's not going to be the I that gets the job done. It will be the we that gets the job done. And the deep appreciation of each one's part. I remember a scene when it was on the rooftop of the history hall, and there were some sisters sitting with Daddyji. And we were having a chit-chat with Daddyji, and at that time it was only Pandav Bhavan, and there was a brother called Ram Lochan Bhai who used to look after the accommodation. And in those days, of course, souls from India come, it's Baba's home, they don't inform. And Ram Lochan Bhai came running up and he seemed quite upset. And he started saying to Daddy, "Daddy, there's a group of 50 coming. They didn't inform us. They'll be here in half an hour. Where am I going to put them?" And, he was going on a bit. And Daddy was just looking at him. And after he finished his rambling, Daddy said to him, "So Ramlochan Bhai, what do you think we should do?" She didn't take on his reaction. She didn't make herself feel responsible. "Oh, he's reacting, so I've got to give him something." You know the game? I got to rescue him. The game? Mm-mm. He's in charge of accommodation. His part is that. His role is that. Baba will touch his intellect. She was pushing back faith, and she was pushing back trust. So in our relationships, being detached in relationships is an attitude of brotherly love coupled with the recognition of another's part and the value of their part in Baba's unlimited task. And that Daddy would always say, "I can't do what they do." And Daddy would give so much love and respect to that soul, irrespective of nature and sanskars. So, detachment in relationships. The first foundation is always the body, by the way, because the seed of the connection of everything else is the awareness of the body. We experience emotions, but the context for an emotion to survive is the awareness of the body. You switch off the awareness of the body, the emotion dissipates in milliseconds. It just evaporates. It cannot survive anymore. And that's why Baba again and again, children, let go of the awareness of the body, become soul conscious. Because he's literally removing the sides of the prison. And everything just evaporates because it cannot survive. No emotion can survive when there's no awareness of the body. So that foundation is first, and then the attitude that I need to change in the way I relate to others. And then the third dharna of detachment is linked to things and facilities and objects. And this is a little bit harder. It's easier to be detached in relationships than to be detached from your facilities. Food, drink, nice warm bed, comfort for your body. We make decisions that will affect the comfort of our body. Yes, we want to serve, but mixed in service is the dependency on facilities. I just want to make sure the body's okay, then I'll do service. I just want to make sure this is okay, then I'll do this. And it's very subtle, Bridge Mumbai, and we were talking about this yesterday, and he was giving his example. It's getting cold. So he lies down in bed. And what does he feel at that moment? Does he feel the support of the bed? This is him talking out loud. He sits, he's lying there on the bed, and he's feeling the comfort of the bed. And he's feeling the comfort of the blanket. And then in the backdrop of the comfort of the bed, he's going off to sleep. And he says, why can't I do the same with Baba? Why can't I feel Baba is sending me to sleep? Baba is hugging me now. Baba's embracing me. Baba's my comfort blanket. So everything we eat gives us a feeling. And over a time, when something gives us a nice feeling, that's what you build your life around. You go shopping for that particular kind of food. You will always go to that place, or you'll go to that person, because you're getting something from it, a feeling. And, you know, in the early days of the yajna, the Baba used to have 15 days of just millet chapatis and buttermilk for everybody in the yajna. Whether you were sick, you had asthma, you were well, everybody was on the same diet. Millet chapatis and buttermilk, 15 days. Nothing happened. Because the whole thing about looking after yourself has less to do with the facility. It's got to do with who is actually sustaining me. This is all an extension of sustenance. Who is, you know, if I'm always running after a seat, I want a seat. Quite literally. We've seen for many years people running after a seat in Baba's meeting. I want a seat. It means I haven't yet realized Baba's already given me my seat. So there's something about the detachment from facilities and the practices required for that that lets us deeply experience Baba's sustenance for us. Because, you know, especially Avyakt Baba, Avyakt Brahma, he doesn't have a body of his own. He'd like a nice pizza from time to time. So when you're eating and you just remember Baba first, you will feel those Avyakt hands coming through and feeding you. You will quite literally feel Baba's sustenance for you. And then it doesn't matter whether you've had half a chapati or one chapati. It doesn't matter. But when you don't feel sustenance from Baba, then that chapati you eat. And even if you don't taste it, you still keep eating, and then you create a mentality, I need to eat more of this because they tell me it's healthy food. But your consciousness is divorced from the one that's feeding you. How on earth are you going to become healthy? So, detachment from facilities, and this requires a lot of checking. It requires you to have certain practices to say, okay, eat something for a period of time, and then stop it, and see if your mind fluctuates. Do this with every aspect of your life. If there's a hobby that you're used to doing and you really enjoy doing it, stop it for a while. Does your mind fluctuate as a yogi? Especially with food, because our closest form of sustenance is with food. And I used to stop tea for a while. I'd have tea for a few weeks, and I'd stop it for a few weeks. So to train yourself not to get dependent on any facility. So today, if there's a cup of tea, great. If there isn't a cup of tea, great. Nyada pyada. Nowadays, people say, oh, well, I can't travel for service to that place because I can't get the food I need. This thing that is 2 inches long controls our mind, controls what we can do and what we can't do. So this is very deep. this attachment to facilities, and I'm clumping everything in it. The food, the drink, the way you live, the possessions and objects you have, your car, everything that gives you a sense of security. Can you live without it? Yeah, and intellectually you might be able to say, yes, yes, of course. Let's see it in reality. I think one of the lessons I know that I've had to learn is this, because for many, many years I've had to live out of 23 kilos suitcase. And at that point you have to really make your life and your mindset very, very simple. Very simple. To be able to serve at a maximum, to allow Baba to use you in the maximum way, so that you don't corrupt service with your dependencies. You know, the bhavna of benevolence doesn't get corrupted or conditioned. You know, we put conditions. So that's why Baba often says that sometimes our dependency on sadhana, the dependency on the facilities, cuts our sadhana. You know, many times in service, souls may say, well, if I get this, then I'll be able to do service. If I get this facility, then I'll be able to... Well, then it means they're not serving. Because somebody who's already serving, they'll make use of anything they have in a worthwhile way. It's interesting that, you know, it was Niwebai was telling me a few days ago, 2 sisters had come to him, they're asking for an office, a room, a this, a that. And he says, but they don't do anything in Madhuban. And he says, it's the ones that don't do anything want the most facilities. Because it's this illusion that if I get this, then I'll be able to serve. Which means I haven't understood what service is. Service is a powerful transmission of attainment. What am I attaining from Baba inside? What is my mind and my intellect and my heart receiving from Baba inside? That vibration is what creates an atmosphere, is what reaches somebody's heart and mind. So this third subject, the dharna of detachment from facilities, and then the detachment from probably what I will say is one of the hardest efforts, your nature and sanskars. You know, Daddy would often say 99% of Brahmins are moving along on the basis of their nature and sanskars. And it is my own nature and sanskars that create obstacles in my Brahmin life. I can live an obstacle-free Brahmin life if I don't use my old nature and sanskar. Tests will always come, that's guaranteed. But obstacles are optional. And if you don't use your nature and sanskars, then even if somebody else's nature and sanskars becomes an obstacle, you will know how to remain detached and loving with them. So sometimes the snake of our old sanskars may finish, but the line still remains. And you don't even realize something that's wrong to be wrong. One of the signs that you are being deceived by your nature and sanskars is that you'll start to find yourself doing one of 2 things. Telling yourself a story, this happened and that happened, or telling a lie. It's almost like the lie covers up the reality of facing something. And then you find yourself justifying your story to others. You see, you tell your story. You see, it's like this, and it was this, and this is how it is. Understand this. Don't you understand this? And you get caught in the trap of justification. And that's sign number one, that you are being controlled by an aspect of your old nature and sanskars. Sign number two is that you'll be stubborn. Because sometimes when we've told ourselves the story and we get attached to that reasoning or that excuse or that lie we tell ourselves, eventually when you repeat that enough times, mentally and verbally, you start to believe your own story. It might not be reality, because when something is truth, there is no story. It is very clear. There is no story where there is truth. There is no need to justify anything where there is truth. So when you tell yourself enough times, you fix yourself in that position, and that's when you become stubborn. And, you prove yourself right. And when you're stubborn, you cannot be an embodiment of success. Can't. Because you're in a fixed position. So, very deep, subtle checking is required. Detachment from nature and sanskars requires deep self-observation, the dharna of checking and changing, checking and changing. Who here keeps a chart? 3 people. This is a Srimad. And the reality of why you feel like you can't overcome your reactions is because you're just not checking. And if you're not checking, you can't change. You can't. The power of change comes from the power of checking. You know how sometimes in our human relationships, things happen, somebody says something, and somebody goes, "Oh, I'm afraid." You get a fear attack in that moment. That's because there's an aspect of your old nature and sanskara controlling you right there and then. It's an aspect of your body conscious nature going, and then you can't see beyond that fear. You're afraid that person's going to come and take something away. And it gets projected out. You can't. Dharna is not theory. Dharna is deep detachment. The foundation of dharna is cultivating deep detachment. So the dharna of checking and self-accountability in all aspects is required. And what happens when you keep a chart over a long period of time, this has been my experience, is that you can start to now see yourself whilst you're doing everything. So as I sit here sharing what I experience, what I know with you, I'm watching myself sharing with you. I'm just very aware of my attitude, my vision, my feelings inside as I'm sharing with you. It just creates a very deep, loving sensitivity to oneself. It's like carrying a baby in your arms. And you just adjust and look after the baby so the baby's comfortable and stays peaceful, but honest. So this subject of becoming detached from nature and sanskars requires checking, powerful checking, and consistent checking. You cannot become and reach the Bapsaman stage of being a lotus, sitting on the lotus seat and being detached and loving without checking. You can't, because your old nature and sanskaras act like a rubber band. And they will pull you into all kinds of fear-based reactions and deceive you and finish your power of realization. Finish the power of truth, which is the power of the eternal soul. Soul-conscious vision, soul-conscious drishti.
शिव पिता को अब याद करो, मुक्ति धाम तुम्हें जाना है। अपने सुकर्मों के बल पर ही सतयुग में तुमको आना है। शिव पिता को अब याद करो। विकराल विनाश खड़ा आगे। अब हम सबका शिव पिता ने बतलाया है। शिव पिता को अब याद करो। पांडव शिव शक्ति सेना की रणभेरी अब फिर बजती है। शिव बाबा के ज्ञान से फिर माया को मार भगाना है। शिव पिता को अब याद करो, सतयुग में तुमको आना है। शिव पिता को अब याद करो, मुक्ति धाम तुम्हें जाना है। अपने सुकर्मों के बल पर ही सतयुग में अब तुम्हें आना है। सतयुग में अब तुम्हें आना है। धाम में तुम्हें गाना है।
You know, with the daddies, the one thing I observed consistently was their ability to remain with Baba in their interactions with others, in Baba's task, whilst being in meetings, listening to things. Baba was always present. I've often shared this story of having taken Dadiji for a walk and bringing her back to her sitting room. And a brother had come in very disturbed because something had happened in his department. And he was very upset because nobody was giving him a solution. And he sat in front of Daddyji, and I sat to the side, and he was, and I'm watching Daddyji. She's just very calm, listening, but she doesn't try to placate him. She doesn't try to talk to him. She doesn't try to reassure him, nothing. He says, and after he's said what he has to say, she reaches out, gives him an apple, and he goes off. And then I said to Daddy, Daddy, but why didn't you even try to, clarify what he was saying or reassure him? And Daddy said, in Hindi, Are pagli. I don't know what you say for pagli. Pagli means like the sweet, innocent one. Daddy wasn't even listening to what he was saying. Daddy was sitting with Baba so that Baba could give that soul what he needed. So it's Baba's love that needs to be shared, right? Every soul wants to come back to Baba. They don't want to come back to you. They've had enough. We've had enough of each other. And so this whole practice and love for becoming a detached observer so that Baba can be present in all of my interactions. And I don't get pulled into a game. The game of attention seeking. The game of transactions. You do this for me, I'll do this for you. Obligations. Yeah? We don't play any of those games in Satyug. We are soul-conscious and we are honest and we are true in our interactions with each other. So, on a last note, I've shared this quite a lot in this month of January because I feel it's a very important component that supports our ability to be dharna yukt and detached and loving in Brahmin life. And that's the relationship that each one of us have with our complete stage. To have a relationship with Baba is one thing, but to have a relationship with your original complete stage is the only way you can reconcile your story. And you can take Baba's help to finish and reconcile your story and restore your dignity again. And I remember many years ago when I was taking leave from Madhuban, and I went to see Daddy and I asked her, is there anything you want to say before I leave? And she gave me drishti and said, make your complete stage your best friend. And, it took me a while to get my head around that one. And eventually, over a period of time, I started to realize, what is the feeling of my complete stage? Is it Baba really giving me love? Or is the connection with Baba so pure that it activates my original state of love? That is my complete stage. Baba is the ocean of love. Baba doesn't have to sit and give you love. Baba doesn't have to make effort to remember, because he's an ocean of love. The effort is all mine. So, because Baba is ever pure, Baba will only reflect back in the connection. The love will ignite the love. The purity, the peace will ignite the purity and the peace. Quite literally, the connection with Baba is activating the inner deity. I feel love. You've just woken up the God and the Goddess inside. When you start to feel those beautiful, unlimited feelings, oh, Baba's giving it to me, that's your complete stage. And now looking after that complete stage like a baby. So making sure your feelings don't get dirty in small things. You know, it's very, very careful attention required to sustain feelings of love and benevolence. A lot of patience and peace, deep connection with Baba is required. And that's why the more bodiless, the more detachment I practice, the purer the connection becomes. And then it's like living with a best friend. And you know, this best friend keeps your conscience alive. Very, very conscientious and determined. Because you're not just alone anymore. You got backup. A sense of your complete stage, a sense of the relationship with Baba, and what is already fixed in the drama. So I would really encourage you to observe and start to make friends with your complete stage. And you know, friendship is something you want to sustain in all areas of your life. You take your friend with you to eat and sleep out together, go camping together, talk together, read together. And so don't just leave yourself behind somewhere. You know, whatever, eat with that love. Eat with that very, very sweet deity that is your original blueprint inside. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes. Has that been okay for you? Are there any questions, or is there somebody that would like to share something? Yes, there. When you're checking your nature, the question, let me repeat the question that he mentioned. When you're checking your, especially in the subject of nature and sanskars, you're checking for influence. Because, you know, when you're checking subtle attitude. Was there something influencing my attitude today? You know what a soul-conscious attitude is. So looking for influences that affected the way you behaved with somebody. Yes, you start at behavior because it's a very gross form of checking. Yeah, well, what did I do wrong today? Well, no, actually, well, what did I do right today? Where did I fulfill Baba's hopes today? Where did I do Baba's directions today? Both is required. Balance checking is required. But also checking is when you fix a practice, you make yourself accountable to that practice. That's another form. So it's never about checking for deficit, what's going wrong, or checking what's negative, what's not working. No. It's about looking for influence. What's influencing my attitude today that maybe didn't keep my drishti accurate? What's influencing my words today? What's influencing? And it's really recognizing your original thoughts and thinking and who you are as opposed to the influences. So, you know, sometimes for people in the early days when we don't have such refined checking, we write a letter to Baba. That's what the daddies would say to us. Write a letter to Baba every night. Slowly, 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 then that became a chart of yoga. So everything, Baba has asked us to check on so many different things. So it has to have variety, but ultimately the function of checking creates the sanskara of attention. And that's what helps change. You can easily change something. Because wherever attention goes, energy starts to flow. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a really wonderful components you shared. I just was thinking, sometimes, we become little cynical or doubtful about every little thing. Like in terms of what you mentioned in context to the games and, obligations that you were mentioning. So I was thinking, how do I come to know whether I'm being cynical or actually the game is being played, that my sanskars are playing game with me? How do I differentiate that? Sometimes, we become little doubtful. Anything that's happening, even realistically, we may think, oh, that's a game that the people are playing with me. Maybe the person is not playing the game, he's been absolutely genuine and real and honest. Whereas the spirituality sometimes, not spirituality I would say, but it teaches us that, this is all Maya is playing a game kind of a thing. How do I differentiate between the two?
The moment a doubt arises in your intellect, it's very obvious in that moment that I'm body conscious. Now, a lot of us live in body consciousness. So we are always activating doubts in each other. It's the nature of body consciousness. The platform of body consciousness is very, very uncertain. If your intellect is living in your body, you will have doubt about your health. Can I walk? Will I be able to make it? Will that happen? Those are the thoughts that will plague you. So that nature of doubt is activated. But when we really pay attention to being soul-conscious, you will never have a thought or a doubt about a relationship. And this is our job as Brahmins, to create a culture of soul-consciousness. This is the Brahmin culture. And too often, we live in our own cultures. Being Gujarati, being Punjabi, being French, being German, and we're relating from the body consciousness of our culture. And that will always activate doubt and other people's nature and sanskars. So it takes somebody to be Arjuna. No matter what, I am going to be soul conscious with you. And you know what soul consciousness creates? An attitude is it creates safety. People feel safe with someone who's soul conscious. Their doubts don't get activated. And when people feel safe, they can grow. They're willing to open up and grow. And that's very important. So I think what's important is to take up the responsibility instead of looking at trying to figure out the game and the relationship, because it's not about that anyway. It's about what's being triggered in me. That I take up the firm determination to create a soul-conscious attitude in my relationships. Because the moment I make that effort, I deactivate the nature and the sanskara of doubt.
The doubt part was okay, but what about being cynical?
Well, cynicism is maybe the byproduct of having believed your doubts and put your doubt into action. Because it's Murphy's law. If you have a doubt and the domino falls that way, whatever thought that you've had that this is going to go wrong, is going to go wrong, will go wrong, has to go wrong, you believe it, and that's when you get cynical. You see, it doesn't work. Because you've acted out your doubt. And then you create a sanskara of cynicism. I mean, we are chained, I will say, by these sanskaras and the games, because we have operated from doubts. We have acted out on doubt, so we have created sanskaras like this. And this is where it requires really deep, silent reflection, deep checking, being with Baba, and every time that feeling comes, really giving it to Baba. You know, others may have the sanskar of worry. In Hindi we say fikr. You know, worry, what if? Hey, it's like a religion. Forget about shanti and peace being a religion. You know? And they just live with this. And I'm like, okay. And Baba's given us a remedy for this as well. Children, when you wake up in the morning, whatever thoughts you have, just give them to Baba. What is mine is yours. That's the dharna of a trustee. Nothing is mine, it's yours. And then if it comes back in the day, remember you've given it. So you can't take it back again. And I find, as I keep giving things to Baba, really giving things to Baba, I get a lot of power back in return. And that power keeps you in your seat. But at least first you have to come to the stage of recognizing, wait a minute, I'm being controlled by this thing. Do I want to stay controlled? Am I attached to it? Some people are so attached to their nature and sanskars. Because it's been your companion, your coping mechanism for births. But there is nothing. Your original stage is way more powerful than the temporary set of nature and sanskars you've adopted, or habits you've adopted. And I think when the yogi that connects with Baba feels the strength of the deity, nothing is impossible. Nothing. Okay, I think we've gone over time a bit. Do you have an announcement to make? Okay.
Om Shanti. Thank you so much, Gopi Ben, for so much wisdom. I know that personally, I guess it's the same for all of us listening to you at times. I really felt strongly the presence of the dadis. And now a couple of announcements indeed. So I hope that the first timers who were here yesterday with us are still in this room, because again, you are invited to come on the stage, first timers. Please do come on the